Hey guys, hope you're all doing well. Now for today's video, I wanted to talk about a dinosaur that was cut from the Lost World Jurassic Park. In the second film that came out in the movie series, Steven Spielberg would add quite a lot of prehistoric animals to Jurassic Park's roster. The previous movie had a total of 7 species that are visibly seen on screen, and The Lost World would introduce an additional 6 to build upon what had come before. Even with this increased number of dinosaurs that the audience would get to see on the big screen, there were actually plans for even more dinosaurs to make an appearance at the early developmental phase for the second movie. I've stated before in the past that Lost World is documented to having had 9 different drafts of its screenplay before the film was 100% completed. Now, these scripts are pretty hard to come by, and I myself have only read 2 drafts of The Lost World personally, both being radically different versions of what we'd eventually see in the movie itself. The other 7 drafts consisted of some pretty wild and gnarly things that I've honestly only heard of down through the grapevine. Some of the ideas consisted of things like InGen returning to Isla Nublar while it was burning in red flames. Others are said to have featured Lewis Dodson, and even the Carnotaurus from the original Michael Crichton novel. Unfortunately, since I don't have access to these scripts, I can't honestly talk about them with you guys here because I wouldn't have any way to verify everything that I've been able to hear for the last few years. I like to make sure that what I share with everyone on this channel can at least have some evidence to back it up before I say it. That way nobody goes on believing in something that isn't true. Well, fortunately for us, there is one dinosaur that we actually do have evidence on from an earlier version of The Lost World. I want to thank Twitter user Lewis Lee, who goes by @Jurassic_Korea, for finding this information for all of us to go over. So if you can, make sure to go over to his Twitter account and give him a follow when you get the chance. He has some really good content. Now, what Lewis ended up finding happens to be an old interview from Steven Spielberg that took place close to when Lost World was coming out. And in that interview, Spielberg went over a special Super-Raptor species that they initially had plans for integrating into the second movie. The excerpt from this source states the following. There are several new dinosaurs in the Lost World. Compies, which are chickens from hell, an adult and baby Stegosaurus, a Pachycephalosaurus, otherwise known as a headbutter, and a dead Parasaurolophus. Other choices, like a Super-Raptor, were considered, but discarded. The Super-Raptor was a little too much out of a horror movie, Spielberg says. I didn't want to create an alien. I find that very interesting. Originally, the idea of a Super-Raptor dinosaur was considered for The Lost World early on in development, only for Steven Spielberg to decide that it would be a little too unnatural and horror-like for the movie he wanted to make.
You are acting like we are engaged in some kind of mad science, but we are doing what we have done from the beginning. Nothing in Jurassic World is natural. We have always filled gaps in the genome with the DNA of other animals. And if their genetic code was pure, many of them would look quite different. But you didn't ask for reality. You asked for more teeth.
I never asked for a monster.
Now, what I find really fascinating about this bit of information is the fact that far later down the line, this idea for a Super-Raptor eventually did make its way into a Jurassic movie with the release of Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom's Indoraptor. And yes, in all due respect, the entire goal for it and its usage happen to be centered around a more horror-driven ideal. We don't have any visual representation for what this mysterious Super-Raptor from Lost World would have looked like, but I'd wager that it would more than likely have some sort of slight alterations to what we presently know the Jurassic Park raptors to look like. Spielberg says himself it would have been a more horror-oriented alien thing, so the Indoraptor may not be too far off. Curiously, Jurassic Park Trespasser happened to feature a large red alpha velociraptor at the top of Mount Watson in the final level of that game. So part of me wonders whether or not this dinosaur has any relation to the Super-Raptor concept from the Lost World. I don't have a good feeling about that. Whoa! Oh. Shit, it's a fucking Indoraptor? Personally, I think it may be a very good possibility that these two are related. As far as The Lost World goes, I think it ended up being a good call for them to not use this idea in the second movie, mainly because I think it would have shifted that film's tone away from the more animalistic focus that the second movie was pursuing, and it would have gone in a more horror and sort of unnatural abomination style of something like the awesome hybrid from Fallen Kingdom. I personally do think though that Lost World was severely lacking in any science fiction elements to truly make it feel like a sequel in spirit to the ideas of cloning extinct dinosaurs from amber like in the first movie. I love The Lost World, but it quite honestly is not a science fiction movie. There is no focus or really dialing in on the hook of making a baby dinosaur like what we saw in JP1. In fact, the first two Jurassic Park sequels kind of threw all of that stuff away and chose to only focus solely on the dinosaurs themselves. This gave the impression of a much more natural and kind of land that time forgot sort of tone to their stories. Meanwhile, the new Jurassic World films, which technically do feature a Super-Raptor, have gone in the direction of the faux science from the original Jurassic Park and the Michael Crichton novels of the same name. So bottom line, I think it was smart to leave it out of The Lost World, but also smart to revitalize the concept in some way for Fallen Kingdom. I feel like this has let the ideas and the world that they've wanted to play in come full circle on a creative and storytelling level. But what do all of you guys think? Would you have liked to see what the Super-Raptor would have looked like in The Lost World? Or are you fine with not having seen it at all? That second movie underwent a lot of revisions in order to deliver something that the audience wanted, or at least what Spielberg thought the audience wanted. I've always loved Lost World Jurassic Park, but I know that it has its detractors. And just like that second movie, I feel the same way about Fallen Kingdom. Whatever your thoughts and opinions may be, I'd love to hear them in the comments down below. Now before I go, I'd like to thank all of my game wardens, as well as all of my InGen executives. I'd also like to thank all of my park workers and InGen hunters as well. It really means the world to me that all of you continue to watch my videos, and I never want any of you to forget that. Now, I'd like to thank all of you for watching today's video, and hope you all enjoyed the content. If you feel like I deserve it, I'd appreciate the like, and hope that you'll consider subscribing if you're interested in hearing from me again. See you all in the next video, guys, and as always, take it easy.